All right. Well, hello everyone. I'm really glad you're here. I am Mercedes Kirkel. I am the guide and facilitator of the Magdalene Heart Path online course, and this is a free introduction to that course. And I want to start by saying some things about me and who I am, and also a very short overview of the course. And then what I want to go into is giving a demonstration of the process that we'll be learning in the course. And so for that demonstration, I want to ask for a volunteer. And if we have more time, we might be able to get to more than one volunteer who will volunteer some situation in your life where you had feelings come up or judgments come up or you're experiencing some challenge or some conflict. And it doesn't have to be a big, huge thing. It can be just a tiny little incident that happened or whatever. Any of those work. And the only thing I ask is that it be something you are comfortable sharing with others who are on the call or who may be watching the recording later. So I'm mentioning it now so that you can be thinking about it and coming up with a situation if you want to share. And I find that this is really helpful for people to see in real life practical terms what the process looks like. It gives a much better feeling. So we'll be doing that. And at the very end, I have a free gift to offer everyone as a thank you for participating today. So I hope you'll stay with me to the end and you'll be able to receive your gift. So that's our overview. Let's dive in and get going. And what I want to do is I want to switch into showing some slides. So give me just a moment to do the logistics here and get my slides up, and I'll be right with you. Alrighty, so this is what we're doing today. We're talking about the Magdalene Heart Path online course. This course is based on the channeled teachings that I received from Mary Magdalene. And those teachings are all recorded in Mary Magdalene, the book, Mary Magdalene Beckons, Join the River of Love. She has since elaborated on those teachings, so I have been the beneficiary of much wisdom from Mary Magdalene about this process. But it all started with the book Mary Magdalene Beckons. And where the course came out of was after I put the book out, which was in 2012, I had people contacting me, wanting to do sessions with me, and they would tell me that they loved the book, that it changed their life, it was so profound. And then we would start working with some situation in their life that they were having some challenge with. And I would ask them to engage the process, and I saw that they didn't really know how to. And they could do it if I guided them, but I wanted to empower people to be able to do it on their own. And that's what Mary wants too, I'm quite sure. And so out of that experience happening many times, that's where I got the inspiration to create this course, because I was really trusting that if people would stick with me through the sessions, and it's a 6-session course, that by the end they would have the tools they needed to do this on their own. So they wouldn't have to come to me every time they had a problem or a challenge, which we can't do, And they would be able to internalize it and be able to use it in their own life, and with others as well. So that's where this course came from. And I found that it's really worked. That I've taught this course numerous times to many, many people, and the people who've gone with it have really said, now they're ready, now they're empowered. And in a few more slides, I'll show you some of the responses from people. That is very gratifying to me, that it's helped so many people. So what do you get from this course? What's the focus? Well, the first thing, Mary Magdalene's focus in the book and the channeled messages she gave for Mary Magdalene Beckons were more than anything else about uniting our masculine and feminine. And this means, first and foremost, our inner masculine and feminine, that whether we're a man or a woman or however we identify, that we all have our inner masculine and feminine, similar to the idea of yin yang in the Eastern philosophy. And that for most of us, our feminine is extremely underdeveloped. We live in a world that so favors the masculine that even for women, most of us are not only underdeveloped in our feminine, but very disconnected from it. And it's not until we actually get into the course that many people see how true this is. They may have the idea, well, yeah, I know we live in a course that's, leans towards the masculine, but I've done a lot of work and I've developed my feminine. And then they get in the course and they go, oh my gosh, I had no idea. And this is important for women to connect with their feminine. I think women are in touch with that. It's important for men as well. They have their feminine side and they're struggling by not having that as fully developed and accessible to them as they could be. It's important for those we're in relationship with, because if we're in relationship with others, being able to relate to them, including their feminine aspect, makes a huge difference. And this is the basis for us to be able to have healthy relationships between men and women, is having the foundation of both being strong, both being fully developed. So she said, okay, we've got to work with the feminine and bring it up to speed. The masculine is fine. Most of us have quite developed masculines, but the feminine is not as developed. And so that was her real focus in the book. And it was primarily on these three areas of our relationship with our body, our sexuality, and our emotions. And she said if there was, and especially emotional pain, and she said if there was one arena that could make the most difference for the most people right away, it's emotions. So that's what we're especially working with in the Magdalene Heart Path online course, is a very different way of relating to emotions than most of us have ever experienced. So another way of looking at what we're doing is we are, as many people in the spiritual world are aware, one of the biggest arenas that we're all growing into is this process of shifting out of our head and into our heart. It's an easy way of saying it. It's not like we're going to lose access to our mind and our, thinking. Our thinking is wonderful. It's not the problem. It's our underdeveloped heart. And while many of us desire to do this, we don't necessarily have tools that support us. And we're left kind of wishing, well, I wish that I could live more in my heart. I experience it sometimes and I love it when I do, but then I fall out of it and I go through periods where I'm not connected in my heart. And most of us don't have actual tools, a practice that we can engage to get us back in our heart and to get us to live consistently in our heart. And that's what Mary Magdalene has given, is a practice where we can consistently do that. And it's a way of moving into what she has started to call emotional mastery. She said human beings came into the earth realm, incarnated here, in part to fulfill a mission that's a very broad-based mission. It's something that we are to be the leaders of in the cosmos, which is to be emotional masters. She said that is part of our destiny as human beings, that we came here to really manifest this and be a guide for others in what it is. And she said we're kind of lagging behind, most of us, that we haven't learned the tools for what that is. And instead what we've learned is to avoid our emotions, and especially our emotional pain. That if we're feeling sad, if we're feeling afraid, get out of it as fast as you can, try to avoid it altogether, and for sure don't let anybody else see that you're having those experiences. And because they might say, hey, that's not acceptable, or that's not spiritual. If you're really spiritual, you wouldn't be feeling those things. And she has a very different point of view. She says our emotions are gifts, every single one of them, that help us to to connect or reconnect with our God nature, our divine selves, our wholeness. And if we're not making use of that gift, we are missing a great help and probably not doing the work that we need to be doing to be in our divine wholeness, each one of us. So that's what emotional mastery is all about, using emotions, receiving their gift to allow us to be powerful beings that we came to be. And in that process, it also tends to resolve the emotions. And most of us enjoy that if it's emotional pain that we're experiencing. So it does both. Finally, what Mary Magdalene is so interested in, and Yeshua as well, and Yeshua is the same as Jesus, Yeshua is the Aramaic name, is our spiritual growth. And in particular, that involves completing the work of the third dimension that we came here to do and preparing us for moving into the higher dimensions. And all of these things that we're talking about, uniting the masculine and feminine, shifting from our head to heart, and emotional mastery are some of the primary areas that most humans still need to, you might say, complete, to be ready to move on, to have fulfilled our work that we came to do at the third dimension. And this is something that a lot of spiritual teachers aren't talking about. A lot of spiritual teachers are talking about the higher dimensions, how wonderful they are, giving us experiences of them that may be great motivators and quite enjoyable for most of us to have those experiences. But what's going to allow us, again, to go there and stay there is we have to finish our work. There is a reason why we're incarnated in the third dimension. And until we fulfill the reason that we came here, we're probably going to stay here. So this is the most direct way that you can move on, is to address these issues that I have found. So in the course, we have 6, you could look at them as 6 topics, 6 modules, and each week we look at a different topic. The first week we talk about eliminating judgment and blame. Again, something that many spiritual people are very aware of, but beyond wishing, gee, I'd like to not be so judgmental, I don't want to blame, they don't necessarily know how to stop it and go to the source. And she has given a very simple, not necessarily easy, but simple practice for doing that. And this is part of what I look for to see how universal a practice is, because most universal practices are quite simple. Not necessarily easy, but simple. What is the challenge in most of this work is unlearning our programming, because most of us learn to do things like judge and blame, and we have habits. And so we're reprogramming our neural pathways, building different muscles to do different things. And that's part of why I love this format of 6 weeks, where you have time, step by step, to really develop those muscles and make that foundational change that's going to make the difference. So the second one, we look at our body and our emotions and how they are pathways to God rather than problems to be gotten rid of. The second one comes right out of week 2, is those pathways to God actually allow us to reconnect to our inner divinity if we understand how to make use of them. And that's what we're learning in this course. Once we do connect to our inner divinity, we're ready for week 4, which is how to become a co-creator, how to relate to life differently. Instead of someone who's a victim or stuck, or disempowered, all of a sudden you become an empowered being who can creatively manifest what you want in life. And that's what we're talking about in very practical ways in the 4th week. 5th week is relating to other people out of natural compassion. And this is the natural compassion of first embracing all of you, your emotions your body, your pain, and ultimately your whole inner divinity. When you do that, it's natural to relate to others in a compassionate way. And there are tools that will support you. So we're looking at that. And then finally, the 6-week, putting it all together so that you can live and relate on the basis of all of these things. And each week, there's a recorded presentation that you listen to on your own time, sometime during the week. And then on Thursday, on our Thursday meetings, which will be at 11 a.m. Pacific time, 2 p.m. Eastern time. Those are our group coaching sessions, and that's where I coach you on applying the skills from the presentation for that week. And that's also recorded, so if you're not able to make the live session, you can listen to the recording later. And then at the very end of the 6 weeks, you also have a private session with me where I coach you one-on-one on applying these tools. So this is the process that I found to be really effective for people, and such a delight to watch people go through this, see the light bulbs going off, the excitement about the changes they're experiencing in their life, the breakthroughs. And it's really an exciting process for all of us to engage together. And this is some of the feedback I've gotten from participants that, you know, gives me the feedback that it's not just me saying this, that they too are having really profound experiences and that it's been so valuable for them. And you can find all of this on the website. There's a page, and let's go to that, at mercedeskirkel.com. That's my website. And if you go to the top of the menu at the top, you'll see courses. And if you cursor over that, there'll be a drop-down menu and one of the options is Magdalene Heart Path online course. Click on that, and that's where you can learn more about this course and see a fuller description. And at the bottom, there's the option to register for the course, and that's how you sign up, is by clicking the button at the bottom. And if you sign up this weekend, I'm giving away my free gift here, that I'm offering you a discount of $50 off the course. Usually the course is $365, and that includes the 6 recorded presentations. It includes 9 hours of the group coaching from me and a private session from me. But if you sign up by Sunday night at midnight, you can sign up for $315, saving $50. And what you do is there's a part where you enter the promo code and just enter free intro, and you'll get the free savings. So that might be the end of, oops. Yeah, here's just the recap on that. So what I want to do now, give me a moment and I'll go back here. Nope, there we are. Okay, now I'm back seeing all of you. Hello again. So, most of you are on mute. But if you have any questions about any of that, I want to give an opportunity for anyone to ask a question. So if you have a question about anything I just said, go ahead and unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
I have a question, Mercedes.
Wonderful. Hi.
Hi. Does any of the in the 6 sessions include work about actually going into your shadow or your dark side? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I would say every session includes that.
Okay.
We don't necessarily name it that.
Okay.
But I think that's one way of viewing what we're doing.
Okay. I'm just reading a lot about Carl Jung and the whole shadow and the unconscious, and you know, you got to go deep and dark to bring stuff out, and maybe that's a stage or a frame of reference, but
Yes, I would say frame of reference.
Okay.
And I think what we're working with more than anything is our emotional pathway and our emotional pain.
Okay.
For most people, their emotional pain, you would say it's in the shadow.
Okay. Great. Thanks.
So we're very much working with it that way, in a way that very directly brings it into the light.
Okay.
It's part of what I love about this process.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Mercedes, I was wondering about the 6 recorded sessions. Are they like wisdom teachings, or can you tell us a little bit more about those?
This all comes from Mary Magdalene's transmissions that I've received. I definitely consider them wisdom teachings.
Okay.
To me, some of the wisest teachings I've ever heard.
Okay, so they're an elaboration of each of the themes that you're sharing with us.
Absolutely, and going much deeper into them. I'll sometimes reference a certain passage from Mary Magdalene Beckons and then really go into what I'm understanding she means and how we can work with that and apply that in our life.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So I have a question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wasn't sure how well this microphone worked. So when you started out talking today, you mentioned something about you've received additional material from the book. And so can you talk a little bit more, not asking you to give away your secrets at this point, but can you talk a little bit more about what that, like what you mean by that as
It's primarily elaboration, where she's elaborated on the process and sort of shined the light on different situations. Very often, most of the time now, Mary Magdalene's communications are in response to people's questions. The two things that she really wanted to talk about, she expressed, and that's what the 2 books are that I've published. The first one being Mary Magdalene Beckons, where it's really talking about the emotional process. And the second one being Sublime Union, where she was really focusing on the process of sacred sexuality as a way of accessing higher dimensions. And she did them in that progression for a very particular reason. She wanted, first of all, she feels like the emotional work is the most important, so she didn't want to distract from that. And also she felt like it was the foundation for moving on to the platform of sacred sexuality. So that was her intention, was that it was going to be a progression and people would start with the emotional work. But after she gave me those messages for a long time, I had a sense that she was complete with what she really wanted to express, but she was open to other people's questions. And so what she would do was, in answering those questions, I always saw her returning primarily to the material from Mary Magdalene Beckons and just elaborating, going deeper, and showing people how that applies to their situation.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I'm glad you're feeling better.
Thank you so much. I am so glad. And you know, when I got to the very root of it, it was emotional. Big surprise.
Always is.
Even I have to do my emotional work all the time. Any other questions? Okay. Well, we'll have a chance at the end to ask questions if, questions come to you. And so what I'd like to do now is move into doing a demonstration of the process. And if we have time, we might be able to do more than one. So does anyone have a situation in their life right now that they'd like to volunteer to do some work with, something that is somehow challenging, bringing up emotions for you, or bringing up judgments? Any of those are great topics to work with. And if you're open, just unmute yourself and let me know.
This is Peg. Can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Well, I have one that I've been struggling with.
Great.
I read the book and I've been using the book and I understand what's going on. But in the midst of things, I don't have the emotional mastery to be clear enough to follow through.
Yes.
So the situation is fear,
Okay.
and I have a horse that I've been working with, and I know she's in my life for me to grow. And what happens is when I go to load her in a trailer, I've been injured before when loading a horse in a trailer, and so I have some baggage that I've worked on. But the anticipation of doing that process of getting the horse, loading it, causes the fear to come up. And by the time I go out to handle her, my heart rate is up, and I'm not being the leader that I need to be, because horses are herd animals, and she picks up on my anxiety and it's like, okay, I need to be afraid of something. And she stops thinking and she just starts reacting. And then we get in a vicious circle, and I eventually get her in the trailer. But the process is so exhausting emotionally that it takes the fun out of going anywhere. Mm-hmm. And I know I'm the cause of it. Because if I was calm and let me back up. When I'm in the process of loading her and she's balking and doing all kinds of things that are inappropriate, I'm able to be present and deal with it. I'm getting better at it. I'm getting better tools at it. But my problem is, how do you deal with the situation prior to you actually getting involved in it? Does that make any sense?
Well, yes. And okay, so like most situations in our life that matter to us, there's some complexity here. There's your feelings before, your feelings during, your feelings after. This has been going on for a long time, so your feelings about the pattern, that it's continuing. And then there's the horse and the horse's feelings that come up. So even in what in some ways you could say is a relatively well-defined situation, there's still complexity and layers. So the first thing that we want to do in this process of shifting out of our head and all the things we're thinking about the situation, because that's what we've been trained to do. How do I fix this? Right. And our minds are these wonderful tools for, coming up with ideas. Well, I have to understand the problem, I have to analyze it, and I have to look at, how to solve it. This is a whole different pathway where instead of thinking, we're going to go into our feeling. So if you go into your feeling and think about the exact time, what I want to do is isolate one particular time of all the choices that we could look at of different moments, that are bringing up different things. But let's pick one real time. Think of a recent time where this happened.
Okay.
Okay. So you were, and I'm imagining the description would be, you were trying to load the horse into the trailer on this particular time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now we're down to one time. We've simplified already. And what I found is this is like the drop of water that reflects the whole ocean. When we work with one moment where a feeling comes up and get to the root of it, it shifts everything. It's part of the nature of our reality, where when we make a shift for real at the heart in one incident, everything shifts. So let's see here. So on this particular incident, you were trying to load the horse into the trailer, and the feelings that came up for you were the feelings that I heard were fear and anxiety. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So now we're in touch with the feelings, fear and anxiety. And again, what most people have learned, our training by and large, is when those kind of feelings come up, how can we get out of it? How can we stop it? How can we make it go away? Mary's point of view is very different. She's saying that fear and anxiety is actually a gift. And to receive the gift, you need to open to it. And one of the descriptors she gives for this is allowing ourselves to merge with that fear and anxiety. One of my favorite chapters in Mary Magdalene Beckons is where she describes this, and I believe it's either chapter 3 or 4, where she talks about it feels like going into a dark cave and and just giving yourself into it instead of trying to pull back and get out of it. And that what happens when we do that is usually very different from what we think is going to happen. We oftentimes think that it's going to get worse. We may never get out of it. This is going to really magnify the problem, whatever that is. And instead, this is the pathway through to really heal it at its source. So going into that fear and that anxiety, and then she gives tools for what to do when we go into that fear and anxiety. And she says, at the source is some beautiful part of ourselves that we have gotten disconnected from, and that those feelings are pointing us to. They're actually not only showing us that we've gotten disconnected from some part of what she calls our inner divine qualities, our inner divinity, but they actually help us find which part is it. They actually are part of the map, the GPS, to find that place so we can heal it and reconnect. And part of what we learn in the course is this system for using the feelings as our guidance, as our GPS back to our divinity. But I'm going to do a little help here. So you said something, Peg, that gave me a guess. And so I'm going to make a guess. If it's not right, you don't have to explain it or try to make it right. You can just say, no, it's not that. And if it brings up something else that's more right, great, tell us. So I'm guessing that fear and anxiety is coming out of your wanting to be safe because you have suffered injuries in the past. So now when you load this horse, this big animal, into the trailer, you experience fear and anxiety because you want to be safe in that situation. Is that right?
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're going to keep going. We're not quite there yet. But what I want to say about this is safety is one of our inner divine qualities. These inner divine qualities are kind of like our spiritual DNA. They're all the different pieces and parts that all together make up our beautiful human divine nature. And we all share these same parts, just like all humans share the same DNA, but we express it in our own unique ways. But all of us, a part of our humanness is that we want to be safe, that's a very human longing, and that our ultimate safety is with God. And the source of all of these inner divine qualities are ultimately with God. But in our human third dimensional life, we want to bring that divinity into life. And so it's natural for us to want to express and manifest those inner divine qualities, and in this case, safety in life. And sometimes we get these ideas that if we're really spiritual, we shouldn't need that. It shouldn't be necessary. We should be able to go through anything and just, be like saints, be godly, stay connected to the divine. But Mary is saying that's one aspect of our being that is true, that there's a part of us, and she calls this you could call it our transcendent part, or what shows up as the more masculine aspect, which is that we have a part of us where our divinity is not affected by the events of life. It's just always there. And we can tap into that always ongoing divine nature. But there's another aspect. This is like the yin and the yang, the two aspects, which is the more feminine aspect of our divinity, which is about how our divinity shows up in life. And in our feminine aspect, we're very affected by all of the events of life, and we have choice as to how we respond. And one of our, from Mary Magdalene's point of view, most important choices is, are we going to respond in a way that supports us staying connected to our divinity? So in this case, we want to support you staying connected to that divine nature of safety. And so the first step to doing that is to help you reconnect with your inner sense of safety as a divine quality. And to do that, what I want to ask you to do is a little practice right now where you go inside, and it often helps people to close their eyes, to be more focused on their own self and what's happening at the core. And then find the place in you that knows what it's like to be safe, to have that safety already fulfilled that you are longing for in this situation. You might consider it like your inner pool of safety. And when you find that place, let yourself merge with it. If you're seeing this as a pool, you might want to just immerse yourself in that pool of having the safety that you long for. Okay, were you able to do that?
Yes.
Wonderful. And what did you experience when you did that? What was it like for you? What happened?
Well, I had to slow down and not react as much
Uh-huh.
and be more present to, I don't want to say being more in control, but being more aware and thoughtful of what's going on and not wanting to rush and just get the heck out of there.
Okay, so for my own clarity, I want to ask a few questions because I'm not exactly sure by what you're saying what happened. So was this a process you were trying to apply, or was this an experience you were having where you experienced slowing down and being more present?
I experienced it.
Okay.
And it was like things just opened up and calmed down.
And how did you feel when you had that experience?
Like it was going to be okay.
So reassured, calm, maybe more peace?
Yeah, and not, in the past I might have been frantic, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And this was more like just, it's going to be okay.
Trusting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And noticing how it felt different from other times.
Instead of being constricted, I was open and flowing.
All right. Thank you. So now I want to ask you to do another thing, which is to do your best to stay connected to this place inside you that had these experiences, this trusting, slowing down, sense that it was going to be okay, more peace. And so all of those as being connected to your inner wellness, your inner well of safety. And then bring in the situation of loading your horse into the trailer and see if you can stay connected to both at the same time.
Yeah, it's not easy, but I think if I can practice this prior to actually going out and doing it, I'll be more successful.
Okay, so I want to reel it back a little bit from what you think might happen in the future to what just happened when you tried that.
I felt myself shifting back and forth,
Hmm.
you know, from getting out of control with anxiety and being present.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the goal wasn't necessarily to get her in the trailer anymore. The goal was for me to be present and be the leader so that whatever we achieved would be okay.
Okay, so that sounds to me, if I'm understanding it right, like there was a little shift that happened, and then you went kind of into another program of how to fix it. Of, okay, if I can be the leader here, then I can get her in and, you know, communicate that everything's okay, blah, blah, which sounds a little bit like you shifted out of that direct accessing your,
Probably, yeah.
yeah.
That's not how easy.
Yes, that's that muscle that we're developing. And so this may be something that sometimes when we reconnect with this inner divine place, if we're dealing with a pattern that's been going on over time, so it has some momentum to it because it's been happening over and over, and also something that came out of something that was really significant to us, which it sounds like this injury was a real trauma that happened that is real in your system still, that it takes some time. And sometimes the initial step is just to kind of want to cocoon in a certain way, to really have that deepening of that experience of what it is to stay connected to that inner place, in this case of safety. And sometimes what I suggest to people is to keep practicing, like maybe over the course of this week, regularly come back once a day, twice a day, whatever's natural for you, come back and tune into this place again and start to get stronger at
Right.
reconnecting with this place, because that tendency to disconnect may be a strong pattern at this point.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. And what I want to point out about this is one of the key elements of this process that's so different. What Mary is saying is that we are not really suffering directly from the outer events of our life. That in this case, as an example, what she was suffering, struggling with, was not her fear, and it was not getting the horse in the trailer. It was that she had gotten disconnected from her inner divinity and is now even at a place where it's kind of a pattern, this disconnection from inner divinity. So what she's struggling with is this somewhat ingrained pattern now of disconnecting. But it's in her. It's not out there in the events of life. The events of life do affect us. We're not immune to life, but the effect is not to cause our suffering. The effect is what you might look at as the events of life shock us. In this case, I'm guessing especially that original injury shocked you, and you got disconnected from your inner sense of safety. But the difference is, the work is not to change the events of life. The work is to change and strengthen your connection to your inner sense of safety, and then to bring that into life, to bring your wholeness into life. And then you may choose to change things, but you'll be changing them not from the place of being disconnected from your wholeness. You'll be changing them from your wholeness to align with that, to support that more in you. Does that make sense?
Totally.
So it's actually may not be obvious so much in this moment, but it's a very different way of relating to life. From I have to change all of this to I got disconnected, I need to reconnect and then see what I choose to do from there, from my wholeness.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anything you'd like to express about how that process was for you?
Oh, it was very helpful because well, it's hard for me to put it into words. On an emotional level, it made sense. And I can see how what I've experienced is that trauma, for me anyway, has resulted in me being disconnected.
Right.
And so then a pattern develops, and it just becomes a vicious circle.
And what we tend to do is we try to deal with the pattern, fix the pattern, but we're not getting to the root, which is healing the trauma, which is ultimately your disconnection from that part of your God self.
So,
Yeah.
thank you so much.
You are so welcome. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions about what we just engaged?
Hi, Mercedes. I don't have a question as much as I have a statement and through this story, just trying to wrap my head around this. So if our innate divine gift coming into this lifetime was safety, am I saying that right? Like we were born being safe and then being born in this 3D world with our crazy families and life happening. We have this emotional reality that's personal to everyone. So when things happen and these feelings are triggered, it's a symptom that we're disconnected. But the truth was we came in with this safety and we're trying to reconnect with that and realize it. This is from a bird's eye point of view.
Yes, I love it. Thank you.
You know what so we came in, so the gift is we have this safety as a birthright. I don't know how else what language to say it. And
I would say it as we came in as divine beings,
okay.
already knowing our safety in God, our ultimate safety.
Okay.
And we came in wanting to express that here in 3D. And every time we were maybe frustrated in some way with expressing that, we got shocked. Maybe this is a place where I'm not safe. Oh my gosh. And we had a shock. And even babies have that shock. Like babies, when they think they might be falling, they have shock. And that shock of not having the safety that they know. They know what it is to be safe. And optimally, we keep healing that. We keep reconnecting to that sense of safety. And then as we grow and have more and more abilities from the time we're a baby, we get more and more skilled in supporting ourselves having that safety here. But the reality is in 3D, we never are ultimately safe here. It's an illusion to think that we're going to be safe. All of us are vulnerable. All of us can be injured physically, emotionally, in other ways. But our divine safety, our safety in God is untouchable. It never goes away. But sometimes we go away from it. And what this is saying is our path to happiness and to really empowerment and being able to do what we came here to do is to learn how to stay connected to that divine aspect that never goes away. And that's what we're really connecting to here. Is that helpful?
Well, it does, because that just probably sums up my life, which has been shock and craziness. And then with my intellect, trying to fix the patterns and fix the circumstances to feel safe.
Right.
I mean, regardless
that
of
sums
what
it up for so many of us.
Right.
That's the program that our culture by and large has taught. And there have been reasons for that. But without needing to go into it, that's brings us up to the present for a lot of us.
Yeah.
And now we have this opportunity to do something else, because the mental program is not ultimately successful in and of itself. It's helpful as in teamwork. Once we reconnect with this inner divine process, and then we are already coming from that wholeness, then the mind is so helpful to help us come up with creative ideas of how to support that in life. But if we're using the mind to eclipse this other thing, we never are really satisfied.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions or comments about watching that demonstration, or anything that you've heard in my speaking here?
This is Peg again. So what I'm getting is that this is just a process, and it's something that we need to engage in on a regular basis so that it becomes a natural way for us to deal with life.
It's actually a spiritual practice, and it can be a little it can fool us sometimes, because we're just using the natural things that come up in life. And so it can just seem like, oh, this is just something like self-help, something to help us handle life better. And it can be used that way. But that's not what Mary is talking about. Mary is talking about a profound spiritual process that's going to shift us into our heart, that's going to empower our feminine to unite with our masculine, and that's really going to allow us to engage this ascension process that she is really wanting to support people in moving into the higher dimensions. But this is our work to fulfill here as the foundation for that. And so, yes, this is an ongoing spiritual practice. I tell people it's like beginning to take on Buddhism and have a Buddhist practice. And it's the degree to which you're going to engage this as an ongoing process that's going to determine how far it takes you, how much transformation you experience.
Well, and while you were talking, what occurred to me in my brain, a visualization, is that the anxiety and worry and frustration that I was holding on to, when you release that, then there's space for divinity to come in.
Yes, which is always already there. It's kind of like the sun being occluded by clouds. And the clouds are all the other things that we're doing in our stress, and then our thinking to try to fix the stress, and all, our trying to do all those things. Those are the clouds covering the sun. But we are allowing the emotions to take us right through those clouds to where we can see the sun again.
Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. Any other questions? I'm really, really appreciating your engagement, all of you, and enjoying this. Thank you for sharing this with me.
Well, thank you.
So anything else? Questions about the class?
I'm excited.
Yay, me too.
So will the class be in this format where you'll be doing your thing here, and then all of us will be on the side and we can interact?
Yep, that's exactly what happens. And there's also the option where I record every coaching call. So if for some reason people can't be present, either you have a conflict for a particular session, or for some people, they have a conflict for just the meeting in general. And whether it's, something they have to do, or time zone where it happens in the middle of the night for them. And so some people take the whole course by listening to the recordings and then doing the live session with me at the end. And I've gotten feedback from not many people who've done this and said that's really worked. It's been really valuable for them. And I've seen when I do the coaching session one-on-one with them that I can tell that they have absorbed the principles and are at the level where, you know, the other people who've been coming to the meetings are. So I have confidence that it works both ways.
Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah.
If there's a time when we can't come to a meeting, a specific meeting, and we have a pressing issue or question, could we send that to you prior to the meeting and maybe have you address it?
Absolutely. I love that. Yes.
Great.
Yeah. And we also have a Facebook page for all the people who are currently taking this course or have taken it in the past. So I encourage people also to interact on the Facebook page, to bring up your questions or your celebrations if you have a breakthrough, your insights, and then you can comment on other people, you know, their process and what's going on for them. And I also find that's another way to really support the process and keep it going, keep it alive for everyone, and get support for what's coming up for you. And I check that regularly, so if you post there, you'll hear from me too. Any other questions? Okay, I just want to close with a couple more things. One is that I offer an advanced program that I call my Ascension School program. It's an online program, although we do have one in-person weekend workshop in the fall. And taking this course is the first part of that program. So some of the people who are taking the course this time will also be going on into that program and continuing on. But we'll all be, you know, doing the same work and doing that together. So I just wanted to let people know about that. And at the end of this course, if you want to continue, that's another option. So you'll have that option if you feel so moved then, but don't have to decide now. And the other thing I wanted to say is that I have just this year started a teacher training program where I'm also certifying people in this process to become teachers themselves and work with people in whatever way they choose, which might be integrating it in with work or teaching that you're already doing, or choosing to teach this course the way that I teach it as a 6-week course and doing that on your own, or perhaps even becoming part of the Ascension School that I'm creating, where this course is the foundation entry level and perhaps teaching as part of that. So just to give you the bigger picture of what else I offer and where this can lead if you have interest in continuing further. But the first step is, if you feel called, if your guidance is saying yes, to please join me for this. And I'm going to call up the slide really quickly and go back to that process one last time here. And here we go. So if you want to register, once again, go to the website, mercedeskirkel.com. At the top, you'll see a menu, and one of the options is courses. You put your cursor over that. You'll get a drop-down menu, and click on the one that says Magdalene Heart Path Online Course. And then when you get to that page for the Magdalene Heart Path Online Course, go to the bottom of the page, and it'll say, to register for the course, click here, click on that. And then when you get to the registration page, you'll see, it doesn't say promo code, it says discount code. So enter your discount code here, and it's free intro. And when you enter that, you'll get a $50 discount savings if you register by the end of tomorrow, Sunday, February 4th. So I think that's everything that I want to share. Give me just a moment to come back to where I can see all of you. There we go. Alrighty, now I can see all of you again. So that's what I have to offer, and I thank all of you for joining me. Also, when you go to the website, mercedeskirkel.com, there's the very far right is a way to contact me. So if you have any further questions, feel free to contact me, and I hope that you choose to join me in the course and look forward to going deeper with all of you and sharing this process that I love so much and that I've seen to be so powerful for so many people. So thank you all for joining, and I hope I see you on Thursday. And at this point, if you want to unmute yourself, I'd love to all share a group goodbye. So if you want to join in.
Bye. Thank you, Mercedes.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing. Thank you for sharing, everyone.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.